Hello everyone, welcome to Voxel Throne, an upcoming indie voxel RPG that I'm developing. The game takes place in a procedurally generated world and is inspired by games like Cube World, Minecraft and Legend of Zelda. You'll explore forests, mountains, deserts, cities and more. You can form alliances with different cities by completing quests and trading with them. In this devlog I want to show you how I started developing the game and what the project looked like in its early stages. It all started when some friends and I were feeling nostalgic and decided to play the old Cube World Alpha again. While playing, we really started to wish that there was still an active game like this out there. At that point, a friend told me that now I have gotten my computer science degree, I could probably make it myself. Back in high school, me and some friends did build a small game in Unity, so I'm not completely new to game development, and I was also not going completely in blind. I did decide against using Unity however, as I have been checking out Godot for some very small projects in 2D. And I also heard that it had become much more capable for 3D games. But I was not sure if Godot could even handle a voxel game, as most of these big voxel games all use custom engines. So I went to Google and looked for voxel game in Godot. After going over a bunch of forum discussions and YouTube videos, I finally encountered Xylan's voxel tools. This module already provides us with a lot of the basics that will be needed for a game like this, including chunk generation, saving and loading worlds, and voxel-based physics. So, now that we have our tools, we opened a new Godot project, added the voxel tools and got to work. Using the docs for the voxel tools, I quickly got some basic terrain generation set up. It still took a very long time to go from these basics to the procedural generation system we have right now. This topic really deserves and needs its own video to properly be explained. But the basic thing to know is that biomes are generated based on some cellular noise, and every biome type then handles terrain generation itself. At the edges of the biomes, we interpolate with a certain basic noise that is underlying to the whole world to get smooth transitions. Although we now have some nice terrain, it seems super boring. We should really add some structures. The first thing I wanted to add were some very simple trees. For every chunk, we have a certain chance that we put a tree in it. Since these trees are all very small, they will always fit in one chunk. This is also precisely our first problem with structure generation. Generally, structures can be bigger than one chunk. And even if they are small enough to fit in a single chunk, a structure can sometimes span over multiple chunks, if it is placed at, for example, one of the edges. To fix this, we need to decide where structures go before we generate a terrain. We split the world up in regions for this. Once we generate any chunk in a region, we create a list of all the structures in that region. And then, when generating a chunk, we only check if some voxels of the structures are in the currently generating chunk. If so, we also generate those structures voxels. This system worked fine for this point of development, but it wasn't very performant, as it goes over every voxel for every structure in the region, in every single one of the chunks. It is very taxing when we have a large number of structures in the region, and uses a ridiculous amount of memory when we introduce megastructures. Of course, being inspired by games like Cube World and Minecraft, multiplayer is a very important feature of this game and cannot be missing. Luckily for us, Godot provides a simple, high-level multiplayer API. Using that, I was able to quickly set up a basic connection and get some sync movement. It is important we implemented multiplayer early on, as it is an aspect of the game that will touch every other feature we need to implement. For example, enemies will need to be able to target either one of the players. Furthermore, damaging enemies or taking damage from enemies will all need to work nicely with our multiplayer setup, so it was very important to get this started early. Now that we have some terrain with some structures and a basic multiplayer functionality, I wanted to start working on the combat and enemy AI. But of course, we would need to attack the enemies with some weapons, and currently there is no way to get any weapons, or to even equip a weapon if you had one. So I implemented an inventory system. Items can be dropped into the world, and once the player gets in range of the item will be highlighted, and once highlighted, it can be picked up by the player. Now that we are able to equip weapons, it is time to start working on some early attack animations. The very first animations were super rough, and even now I'm not 100% happy with the results yet. But for now, we have some functioning animations. Now we still need to add something to hit. Before we can add enemies, it is important that we add some pathfinding system to Voxel Throne. After testing around with the built-in pathfinding system, it was just not flexible nor performant enough for our use case. So now, I'm using an A-star algorithm to find the path. Having optimized this a bit, we can also handle many enemies, but still, pathfinding can sometimes be a bit of a performance bottleneck and will need to be improved further in the future. With the pathfinding in place, we can start implementing randomized enemies. Now, we have some fully randomized humanoid enemies chasing the player once the player gets close enough. We then further improve the enemy AI by getting some unique behavior for our different enemies. Humanoid enemies will generally be traveling through the world, just like the player. As you can see here, they will now pick a certain direction and just keep going in a direction. The idea is that in the future, with different cities, the humanoid enemies will be able to travel between cities. I also added some wildlife to make the world feel more alive. We have some bunnies here who are happily wandering around through the grassland. Bunnies won't attack the player unless they are provoked. I also spent quite some time working on the main menu. Here, a player can go to the options menu to choose the basic options you would expect in any game. Stuff like sound and graphic options. The main menu will also ask the player to select or create a character. When creating a character, I want to have a lot of customization options. We currently have 2 races, and both the races have 2 different types of hair. The system is built very flexible, so once we have some more art, we can quickly ramp it up. You can also customize the colors of your hair, skin, ears and eyes. After creating a character, all you have to do is creating or joining a world. The final bit of development I've done was reworking our structure system. Now generating structures is a lot more performant, especially when we are talking about megastructures. As you can see, it now handles these huge cube structures without any significant performance impacts. While before this rework, having a structure like this would simply crash the game. Next time, we'll be using this new system to create cool looking villages and cities, and I will also be going into more detail about the world generation. Thank you for watching. If you are interested in Voxel Throne, please consider wishlisting the game on Steam. The link is in the description. Please give a thumbs up and subscribe to help with the YouTube algorithm. Or if you are interested in following Voxel Throne's development, join our Discord server. The link is also in the description.